Yes, yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party 101 ESPN. Welcome to the winter of our discontent. Jackson, a record number of people, at least without a female in studio, tuned in to watch us on YouTube on TMA today for schadenfreude purposes. And I know a number of people are waiting for us today here on Balloon Party 101 ESPN with Missouri. Giving it their all. They fought until the final second, kicking a field goal. But coming up just short in College Station. Splashback Deuce says, I've got my happy sock ready. Let's do this thing. Hunter says, poor Jackson is so sad. And MD 2020 says Jackson is not okay. So, I mean, I'm sad too, though.
Yeah, it's been a tough 48 hours.
Would you like to issue a statement of any kind?
I'd like to. That feeling, like I kind of discussed this earlier today, and for those who didn't listen to TMA, you should be listening to TMA.
Nice. What a promo.
Thank you. But certainly going into that game, I thought Mizzou could lose this game. You know, it's going to Texas A&M. It's a tough place to play. They haven't shown much this year. They could lose this game. They could win this game. And then you go to UMass and Auburn, maybe get wins there, and then you can go down to Tuscaloosa and we'll have a gym dandy. I did not see them getting absolutely blown off the field where they did not look like they deserved to be on the team. It looked like Texas A&M paid them $1.5 million to be there.
Oh, no.
That's the feeling it had. You had, obviously, an unlucky start to the game with the DPI call that they pulled back. Yeah, another tough one when they took back the 75-yard touchdown on kind of a ticky-tack offensive lineman upfield. And then you just give up. You absolutely give up. But all those two offensive plays are one thing. That doesn't change the fact that the defense could not stop a nosebleed. Could not stop anybody. They weren't blitzing. They weren't stopping the run. 3rd and 6, they run a draw play that blows them up. And then after that, they're throwing it outside the numbers, throwing screen passes behind the line of scrimmage. Mizzou can't tackle. Still, no pressure anywhere. Connor Wegman is running around. He's running around. That guy probably hasn't ran since high school.
33 yards, Connor Wegman, surprise starter.
Right, and they count sacks in college football for rushing yards. The fact that he had 33 rushing yards is an embarrassment on its own, let alone the score of the game, which is 41-7. We don't count that field goal.
Dan Jansen says, can you say Liberty Bowl?
Oh, God.
Dan Jansen was waiting for you.
Everything's implied. I mean, I deserve it. I got to eat this one. I talk a lot of crap, so I get it.
MD 2020 says, Jackson put it into the ether when he asked if you'd prefer Mizzou to win or lose.
Yep. I would have preferred. I just didn't watch. That was just brutal. I mean, it really ruined a beautiful Saturday for me.
Well, did you go to the St. Gabriel School picnic after the game? I did.
That was my miss. What
did you do after the game? How'd you pick yourself up?
I just hung out with my girlfriend. I told her. She was good about it. I was like,
art house pictures with her?
I was like, we're just going to not talk about it, and it'll be okay. And I ended up talking about it for like 2 hours, just working through my feelings.
Jackson's geography questions is in the YouTube chat and says, can't wait for Monday Night Raw to be broken down in detail tomorrow.
I'm just glad somebody chose a YouTube name based on questions I've asked. That makes me feel good. Makes me feel important.
Did Jackson mope around at D's after the loss again?
No.
Some callous coitus.
That was only after the Georgia loss last year.
And you were moping around?
Yeah, that would be the only way to describe it.
Jackson, as I would imagine, I guess probably 9 out of 10 of our listeners know, Missouri had its first loss last year, the same day as the St. Gabriel School picnic.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of becoming another reason why the St. Gabriel School picnic should be in June.
Absolutely. Can't lose in June.
But in 2023, I really was uncomfortably, but yet somewhat happy that I was still emotionally alive enough to be upset about the loss to LSU. Because I'm like, Missouri's a really good team, and they should have won that game, and they gave it away. In this case, when we had the Colonel, Gabe DeArmond of PowerMizzou.com on Friday, I said, this game's intriguing because we're finally going to find out which each one of these teams are. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I disagree. I think we already know what A&M is. And if A&M is going to win, it's going to have to be with defense. Now, I was not thinking Connor Wegman and them being able to do what they did to Missouri's defense with their offense, whether it be Connor Wegman and Marcel Reed. But we certainly hadn't seen Missouri play a team like A&M has played, both Notre Dame and Arkansas. And I don't think we valued Arkansas as highly as we do now after they've beaten Tennessee. But we hadn't seen Missouri play anybody of note, at least mentally, because the Vanderbilt-Alabama thing hadn't happened yet. And now that you've seen Missouri play a quality team and play like that, I'm a little more at peace with it because I'm just like, I don't really think they're anything special. Whereas the LSU game, they win that, they're undefeated, good chance they're undefeated going into Athens, Georgia, and it's a totally different conversation. This one, I certainly didn't expect 41-10. I was really high on Missouri going into this. Do not get me wrong. I got to own that all day long. And I was high on them, not because of Brady Cook, but I was high on them because bye week and having the time to prepare that A&M didn't because they had to play Arkansas and Arlington the week before. And then also Missouri, I think, was being undervalued in my mind with the spread of getting 2.5 points because of what happened against Vanderbilt, the game that they dominated in the trenches, the very same team that moved the football at will against Alabama 2 days ago. Missouri got blown off the ball on both sides of it in A&M, and I don't know how to explain it because that's not a team that offensively had done anything this year, even in their wins. I mean, they had to come back from a deficit against Arkansas. They were able to move the ball down the field against Florida. But Connor Wigman looked like a third-string quarterback when he was out there against Notre Dame to start the season. Now he's healthy. Now you saw the difference. It also helps when you get 12 seconds to throw the ball before anybody's coming at you. A few things. Number one, I don't know how you can come out and play like that, both from an execution standpoint, from a coaching game plan standpoint, in what is clearly your most important game of the year after a bye week, after a wake-up call against Vanderbilt. From a play calling standpoint, with abandoning the run, never really committing to it, and that's the same guy that got you 199 yards in what had to be a comeback win against Vanderbilt, to Brady Cook, 13 of 31, missing wide open Weiss down the middle in the first quarter, and then just being all over the map throughout the course of the game. And then defensively, Blake Baker made his money that got him to Baton Rouge this offseason by blitzing. Missouri clearly couldn't get any pressure on Wegman with their front four, and we saw very little blitz from the Tigers and Corey Batoon, the new defensive coordinator. That confused me. But from a big picture standpoint, if I were to go macro on the 2024 season, the first play from scrimmage in the second half, you saw how Georgia responded to a disastrous first half in Tuscaloosa the week before. And I'm not saying Missouri's Georgia. I want to make that clear. I'm also not saying Texas A&M is Alabama. But you saw the situation. And what you want to see is maybe you're accepting that this is going to be a loss, but you want to see fight.
Yeah.
I don't know what took place at halftime, but I do know what I saw from the first play from A&M from the line of scrimmage on the very first play of the second half, and that was Moss going off for a 75-yard touchdown. There was no fight. Luther Burden looking disgruntled on the sideline after his touchdown was called back. That's one of your leaders. One of your best players is going to be one of your leaders for better or for worse. I don't understand how that goes on. Mm-hmm. He got penalized left and right against Boston College. He was unhappy that Cook missed him on a couple throws against Vanderbilt, and now you got that going on against Texas A&M. That isn't any good. Your quarterback missing open receivers. Again, that isn't any good. Your offensive coordinator just pulling the plug on running the football. Hey, you're down 10-0. Okay, you're down 17-0. You don't just go, oh, God, now we just got to throw. There's still a bunch of football left to be played. That doesn't speak well for handling adversity. And then defensively, to give up on 58 plays, 512 yards. I want to say it again. 58 plays, 512 yards against a team that by no means is known for offense in Texas A&M. Have no pressure. The offensive line have no protection. Brady Cook was running for his life. Can talk about his play, but he also was running for his life. And then it's immaterial, but I, for the life of me, don't get it. Missouri made fun of Tennessee for trying to get a field goal in at the end of We Stand on Business, Josh, last year, and everybody's celebrating that and laughing at that. How are we feeling about the field goal at the end against A&M down 41-7?
Embarrassing.
Okay, because it's embarrassing for Tennessee.
It's absolutely embarrassing. Okay. And Drink's done it before against K-State. Like, they do it. He's been known to do that. He makes fun of people for doing it. No, it's brutal. It actually kind of gives me peace of mind a little bit because, like, you could legitimately say, like, it really messed up the game for picking up that penalty and bringing back the 75-yard touchdown. But your defense, you could look like Mizzou looked like against Tennessee last year offensively. If your defense plays like that, there's no way you can win a football game. There's no way you can win a football game allowing Texas A&M to do whatever they want, both running and throwing the football, giving them all day, not covering anybody, not tackling in the open field. It doesn't matter. They punted one time in the first half. One time. Every other time other than that was a score, either a field goal or a touchdown. Embarrassing. They got embarrassed out there. They did not deserve to be on the same field as Texas A&M with how they played. So you can convince yourself, because with the new 12-team playoff, one loss is certainly not going to kill you, but you're banking on a basically 180-degree turn. Because this team right now might only have one, maybe two more wins on the schedule.
Oh, my God!
With how they just played on Saturday.
And they got UMass on the schedule.
UMass and Mississippi State.
You think they might have a problem with the Minutemen?
No, I don't think they'll have any problem with the Minutemen. I don't think they'll have much problem with the Bulldogs of Starkville. But the way they played on Saturday, if you go out and do the same thing against Auburn, against Arkansas, against South Carolina, and especially against Alabama and Oklahoma, you will get embarrassed on a team that we thought could very well make the college football playoff. Very well can make the... And like I said, it would take a pretty big turnaround, but they theoretically aren't dead yet. However, getting your teeth kicked in at College Station, the first team of actual note that you're playing, proves to all the fans and all the national people, this is a pretender team. It's a pretender.
And that's what it was. Hearing the term Mizzou going into the game, or frauds. They proved themselves to be frauds on a weekend in which you had the number 1 team, Roll Tide, lose to Vanderbilt. The number 4 team, the Vols, lose to Woo Pig Suey. I guess Miami didn't lose again, but they continued to be assisted by their friends in the Atlantic Coast Conference on a targeting call. So they dodged one yet again after the Virginia Tech Hail Mary was overruled after 7.5 minutes of reviewing film. And then Michigan, and the 11th ranked team, perhaps the only team that might be more overrated than Missouri, but at least Michigan beat USC, and Missouri hadn't beat anybody.
9th team, too. USC lost.
And then USC. We were on that one.
Yeah, we nailed that one.
I loved Missouri, and I also loved Minnesota.
Yeah. And we loved Arkansas, too.
Yeah. Night, underdog, home game.
Yeah, night dogs at home.
Yeah.
Let's be wary.
Let's bet it. So we bet in Colorado this week, at home against K-State?
Colorado, I feel like Vegas includes people hating on Colorado in the betting lines, and I don't know how to ever judge them. But I would be interested. I mean, home dogs, man. And especially when teams haven't played that many people. Like Tennessee sure played Oklahoma in Norman, but I think Arkansas might be a better team than Oklahoma as of right now. There's something about playing at home when you really haven't played anybody. Like Mizzou, that was Mizzou's first road game. They showed how they like to handle the road games. It can be really tough on college kids.
10:19 in St. Louis. You're welcome to get involved in the program. Celebrate our tiers, 314-399-9646. Jackson knew this was coming. After the first quarter, he knew it was coming, so he's ready for you. And you said you're not going to point out that the Blues are opening the season in a day game on Tuesday in Seattle. You're not going to mock the fact that there are going to be people who didn't go to Burroughs or MICDS who are going to be in line to go into the Enterprise Center. You're just going to take it today, I guess.
Yeah, if I have to be that person for people, I want...
The bigger man is what you call yourself.
I want others to feel good today.
Oh, my gosh.
Because if I can't feel good, I want others to feel good. And if making me feel worse makes you feel better, then I don't care how we get to the end zone. Let's just get to the end zone. Maybe Theo Weiss can hold somebody else, or Luther can hold somebody else, and then we can score a 60-yard touchdown. MD
2020 says, I'm surprised Jackson didn't play Texas A&M on NCAA 25 in rookie mode to really get some payback.
I was thinking about being like 123-0 or something.
With that, and do that in front of your girlfriend so she can be like, oh, man, this guy's so hot.
Yeah, this is so rational. What a way to handle, bad feelings. So healthy.
314-399-9646, Air Comfort Service text line, and the YouTube chat. They were waiting for us. We knew they would. 137 are in there talking about it. What a weekend it was in college football. That was incredible. For
a bad slate. This was everyone was saying, there's a bad card, there's a bad slate, goofy, probably not going to be much. It ended up that Saturday night had 4 or 5 outstanding college football games to watch.
I went to the St. Gabriel School picnic, and I sat there at my parents' house and watched, as everybody else did, Alabama and Vanderbilt, and then Tennessee and Arkansas. I didn't stay up for California and Miami. No. I guess I should have known that Miami would be taken care of in the end, and they were.
I saw 35-10, and I was like, well, somehow, some way. We were both on Cal to cover, but I was like, somehow, some way, Miami going to wake up. 39-38. I was kind of hoping, like, after Mizzou lost, I was like, all right, now unleash chaos. And then obviously Bama loses, and then Tennessee was like, all right, all chaos.
Diego Pavia is our guy.
He's outstanding, man.
All right, we got a break. It's Balloon Party 101 ESPN. Mugganass St. Louis Acura. Mugganass Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, presenting sponsor of Balloon Party. Place I go, place my family goes to get our cars, place we go to get our cars serviced, place we would recommend to you without even thinking twice. It's Mugganass St. Louis Acura, Mugganass Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, online at stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. And they set up a number for our audience. If you have any questions or comments or requests, you can go right to the people in charge at Mugganass St. Louis Acura and Mugganass Burkhardt Alton Toyota by texting or calling 314-252-0029. That's 314-252-0029. Go shopping right now, and you don't have to go to the dealership. You can go online at stlouisacura.com to see the selection they have of both new and pre-owned vehicles. Or go online at altontoyota.com and work with the best. That's Jamie Burkhardt. That's Peter Mugganass. Wonderful people who are looking to take great care of you. And then in the service department, Ryan Seiberg and his team. It's Mugganass St. Louis Acura, Mugganass Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. Welcome back. It's Balloon Party. Texters, you've already won. Jackson, what did you tell me during the commercial break?
I went to the text line just for a second to...
Air Comfort Service sponsoring it.
Yeah, just get a gauge on what people were saying. And reading about 6 texts in, I decided, well, that's about enough for me today, looking at that.
Get rid of those stupid-ass white uniforms. That's from the 636.
Yeah, that'll fix it.
We need Jackson to sing the A&M school song. It's from the 636.
That's another thing. I wanted to make fun of those Midnight Yell leaders the whole time wearing those Masters caddy suits. And I didn't even get a chance. They were panning to them and they were smiling, "Go gig 'em." And I was like, oh, God. And they're beating their ass. Like, it sucks.
They are pretenders. That's why they're number 21. That's from the 314.
Good take.
Burden is pissed his draft stock's falling because Cook's horrible. That's from the 314.
He might have to look inward a little bit to see if his draft stock is falling.
Jackson, everyone said they were pretenders. Just deal with it. That's from the 870.
Objectively false. Good take, though.
After a bye week, how can you play that poorly?
That's a good take. That's a good question. That's the right question to be asking.
Now you're on board. Now go back into the air comfort service.
Because I think, after the Vanderbilt game, you can say to yourself, or at least the narrative, and I was buying into it, was like, okay, wake-up call. That was a wake-up call. Like, you can't mess around with teams in the SEC and expect to win. And that was a wake-up call. You got away with one. Now, take the bad parts of that, correct it.
You got a wake-up call. You got to buy.
Yeah, but instead, that's just so far. This is what Mizzou is. This is what they are. Is that they are not the team we thought they would be. They're not even close to the team we thought they would be. Now, there's an opportunity for a turnaround. You have UMass next week. You should beat them so handily, like that. Drew Pine should be in there in the second half.
Oh, you're calling for Drew Pine?
Well, just to get Brady some time off, and maybe, I don't know, but then you have Auburn after that. Like, those are
homecoming. You lose that one, now we got a situation.
But you go into
Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
He's got himself a situation on the Plains. Got some recruits coming in, but this year he's got a situation.
Yeah, he just flipped that kid from Notre Dame. But you win those two. Now you're a one-loss team going in Tuscaloosa. Now you can right your wrongs. But if you
Dixieland delight.
But if you don't correct things, if you go against Auburn and nickel and dime it again, and maybe sneak out a win or lose, it's over. It's over. And now, the ramifications to that are much. We know about this with college football now. Big wins have big domino effects. Big losses have big domino effects. And bad seasons, when you're expected to have a great season, is a terrible domino effect.
That is the spot Missouri is in. Vanderbilt, however, with the win of the weekend. And the thing about that game, for those of you, and I would imagine most of you probably didn't start off watching that game, that 2:30 kick, or 3 o'clock usually. Vanderbilt usually plays at 3. They're the only team in the SEC that has a designated time. And then you're going, oh, it's 14-3, Vanderbilt. You're kind of thinking, okay, inevitably. But then they just kept moving the ball. And on 4th and 1, leading 23-21 at about midfield, Diego Pavia, who we saw against Missouri, wasn't necessarily dazzling against Missouri. Certainly a threat, but not dazzling. Drops back, and on 4th and 1, about a 45-yard touchdown pass. And you're going, this might really happen. And when they needed to, Vanderbilt was able to pick up first downs on the ground, exerting their will against Alabama's defense. Sweet mother of mercy. You think it's going to be rough for Eli Drinkwitz? Imagine being the guy who's inherited the throne from Nick Saban, and in year 1, you lose to Vanderbilt. Whoo! Cats and dogs for Kalen DeBoer.
Coming off of an instant classic game with Georgia where you won.
You got the equity.
Yeah.
With the pollsters, you got the equity. With the committee, you got the equity. But you lose to Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt is a handful of plays, truly like 2 plays from being 5-0.
Yep.
As insane as that sounds.
Yep.
They've beaten Virginia Tech. They've beaten Alabama. And who else have they beaten? Am I missing something here? They lost to Georgia State, which is unbelievable. And they lost on the missed field goal in overtime that would have forced a third overtime to Missouri.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they are real. And it's so tough because no matter who Vandy is right now in 2024, they could legitimately be a great team. It's still a loss to Vanderbilt. Like, we talk about brand names in college football all the time. There's another side to that coin. Vanderbilt has always been known as the seller of the SEC.
Oh, they beat Alcorn State 55-0. Steve McNair.
Yeah. Mississippi State is pretty clearly the worst team in the SEC this year. But I still think like a loss at Mississippi State would sound better than a loss at Vanderbilt.
I agree with you. As weird as that might sound, because now people are loving what Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt did, that has an attachment to it. Right. Nick Saban lost in his first year to Louisiana Monroe, but Nick Saban was not inheriting a Nick Saban roster. Nick Saban was inheriting Mike Shula, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds right.
And the number of coaches that they went through. Mike Price visited a Stag Bar, Dennis Franchione and Mike DeBose. It wasn't exactly Bear Bryant to Saban.
Right.
So you had those guys following Gene Stallings. Kalen DeBoer inherits Saban's team. And yes, you have the transfer portal and NIL now, so it's a different set of circumstances than 17 years ago when Saban was a rookie coach in Tuscaloosa. But wow, what's that going to be like for him? And guess what they've got coming up? They got South Carolina and Shane Beamer, who got worked over by Hotty Toddy, good gosh almighty. But then they go to Knoxville, which means no matter what, either DeBoer or Heupel have 2 losses going into the final weekend in October. So you've got that coming up as Tennessee loses to Arkansas. Speaking of another team that could very well be 5-0 that is on Missouri's schedule, Arkansas went into Stillwater and was leading in the fourth quarter, lost in overtime, and they were beating A&M in the fourth quarter in Arlington, Texas last week, and then wound up losing that one as well. Meanwhile, Sam Pittman, who I think was considered the odds-on favorite to lose his job first. Billy Napier and Sam Pittman probably locks.
I'd say probably Napier was a little ahead.
Is the top 2 going into the season. Barring a huge surprise, he's going to keep his job, and he might have something going there in Fayetteville, which means that's another team Missouri's got to deal with that didn't look like much at the start of the season and now might be a little bit more than had anticipated. The issue, though, for Missouri is internal. Like you said, if they don't get it right, then games that looked like wins can become losses, and games that look like losses can become embarrassments. By the way, ILL has Purdue, which might be the worst team in the Power Four. Mississippi State and Purdue ought to get together and just have their own little exhibition game, maybe over at Francis Park. And then they get Michigan. But hey, Illinois is ranked behind Missouri right now. I'd put Illinois ahead of Missouri all day long.
Absolutely.
They have more impressive wins. And their one loss was at Happy Valley at night, and that was a 7-7 game at the half and a 14-7 game before Penn State got a score right at the end. Illinois, from my standpoint, should be ahead of Missouri. It's not anti-Missouri. It's just calling a ball, a strike. They've done more at this point. Missouri has not exerted dominance over a team yet. So I disagree with the idea of a 180. They haven't done anything to, reverse form. You know what I mean? Unless you want to go back to Murray State and Buffalo. When they've had to play actual teams from the Power Four, they haven't looked good.
I know.
Period. And that's the thing that is really eye-opening and concerning. When Missouri has expectations going into a year like they did 2007 to 2008, you had disappointment that year. They lost at home to Oklahoma State, got blown off the field the next week at Austin, Texas. I was there for that one. Colt McCoy and the Longhorns just bludgeoned them. 2013 to 2014, they lost at home to Indiana. And Indiana's got a great thing going right now. Indiana, I think, could really go 11-1 this year, as crazy as that sounds. But Indiana wasn't that in 2014, in addition to getting worked over by Georgia that year. They still won the SEC East, but I don't think too many people thought that was a great Missouri team. It was kind of like in 2008 when Missouri won the Big 12 North. It was more a byproduct of the rest of the division. So expectations again in 2024, and at this moment, an opportunity to kind of own the sports scene with college football. Now you've got a situation on your hands, and I think what happens against Auburn at homecoming will tell you a lot about what direction this thing is going to go. 10:34 in St. Louis. Your thoughts are welcome on the topic. 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line, and you're welcome to text in and participate in the YouTube chat as well. That is 101 ESPN's YouTube channel. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you. This is Balloon Party on 101 ESPN.
This is Action Jackson with a SportsCenter update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Monday Night Football action tonight on 101 ESPN. Chiefs taking on the Saints. You can catch that game right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6:30, kickoff at 7:20, and then tomorrow the Blues kick off their campaign with an afternoon game in Seattle, taking on the Kraken. Pregame starts at 2:30. Puck drop for the 2024-2025 Blues season right here on the home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Puck drop at 3:30. Those are their SportsCenter update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Really bad SportsCenter update.
Kind of. Did you see how the Vanderbilt player caught that fourth down pass from Diego Pavia? Kind of choppy feet, like it was like he first found out how to run after he caught that. That's how I felt with my mouth at the end of that SportsCenter update.
He caught the pass.
I mean, I delivered a great SportsCenter update. The outro was bad.
You let people knew the Blues are playing tomorrow.
Yes.
Where are you watching the game?
I'm going to be listening to it on 101 ESPN.
Wow, what a nice play.
Yep.
We're just driving around?
No, I
You're going
would
to sit by a creek and writing poetry?
I have a little radio, a little portable radio.
Transistor radio?
A little portable radio that I take, and I'll go, by a creek.
Does that transistor radio have HD2?
It does. I had it specially equipped.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
It's really cool. I duct taped an iPod Touch to it and have the TMA app on there. And so, if you mess with it, it's like a Fisher Price thing. You just mess with it enough and then hit the button on the back, it'll work.
Nice. It's going to be sick by the creek tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, come join me.
Jackson, weekend wrap-up. What do we have? Little Piddles weekend wrap-up.
Well, not much happened this weekend.
What a Saturday.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was. What was your favorite game outside of
Vanderbilt, Alabama?
Yeah.
That was the whole country watching Vanderbilt play a football game. Can't wait to see the numbers. I assume that was SEC Network. Vanderbilt has the official time of 3 in SEC Network.
Yeah, I think if they could have put that game on the CW, they would have, they did with Ole Miss. But they. Listen, trip to Vandy now might be a little bit different story.
Kentucky comes a calling this weekend in Lexington.
We theorized that
offense versus defense.
Yeah, we've theorized that there would be a South Carolina might mess with somebody's schedule.
Vanderbilt.
We thought maybe Kentucky would, and they almost did, and they kind of did with Ole Miss. We thought Arkansas would. They did against Tennessee, but did not have Vanderbilt upending what looked like the by far best team in the country after last week against Georgia. And completely different story now. Texas and Ohio State seem like they're head and shoulders.
Texas and Ohio State didn't do anything this weekend. But as far as dominance goes, it's been both Texas and Ohio State as far as beating the hell out of their opposition. Ohio State, for the record, heads to, you call it the Autzen Zoo, for a 4:30 Pacific, 6:30 Central kick. And it never rains at the Autzen Zoo?
That's what they say.
Yeah. Even though it's always raining, it never rains.
Yeah, it never rains inside the Autzen Zoo. It's like a little oasis.
So we'll find out. One of the top 6 teams in the country, I think, maybe Oregon's 5 now.
No, Oregon's 3.
Oregon's 3, Miami's 6.
Yeah, God.
And Georgia's 5. Hell, I don't know. Either way, these things don't matter. Texas is number 1. I know that. One of the teams in the top 5 is going to have a loss. You know that. The following week, Tennessee and Alabama do battle. So one of those teams is going to now sit there with 2 losses. Good Morning Grant came in here during the commercial break and said, do you think a team in the college football playoff will have 3 losses? And my answer is yes, I do.
Yeah, after this weekend, it's kind of hard to not think that, especially with how the SEC is cannibalizing itself. My question here is with how volatile college football was this week, with the top 11 being upended, can you remember a time where it's harder to handicap conference games? And do you think all of that is an overall good thing for the sport? The parity element, is that a good thing?
I think it's a good thing for the sport. The last time you had something as chaotic as this past weekend, again, not number for number, was the 2007 season, the season Missouri got to number 1 in the country. That was anarchy.
The strangest season in the 21st century.
For college football fans, they hold that one in either really high esteem or they just cringe when they think about it.
Yeah, the top 25 is ridiculous looking.
That you have Missouri and Kansas playing to be number 1 in the country. That's unheard of. So this now sets the tone of, is this an outlier or is this the new way that it is?
Yeah.
Does NIL and the transfer portal create parity? And this is only we're sitting here on October 7th. This was only October 5th weekend. So you have 8, 9 weekends for potential anarchy the rest of the way. This thing isn't over. And so therefore, I think a team maybe like an Alabama or Georgia that has 3 losses, Georgia might be the one. But they're going, my God, I mean, Clemson might win the ACC. Clemson looks great right now, responding to their loss to start the season. Dabo Swinney's team got a late score to cover against Florida State, by the way, and they're putting up points. So Georgia will have that. They would also have to win another game against a high-quality opponent. Yeah, there's a chance that Georgia's sitting there at 9-3.
Yeah.
And are you going to keep them out for, like, some rando that didn't play anybody but is 10-2?
Yeah, like some team from the Big 12 who, has 1 or 2 losses. And that's the thing is, like, we're obviously a culture sports-wise, certainly, and other places as well, that's narrative and storyline. And obviously, since college football has adopted the NIL rules and much more lax in the transfer portal, a couple weeks ago or a week or so ago, we saw, like, the bad side of it with the UNLV quarterback situation, how that whole thing went down and how crazy that is. And there's the good side of it is, the playing field has been leveled just a little bit for some of these more so with the transfer portal, where if you can have a guy who's developed in lower D1 or even D2.
New Mexico State, Diego Pavia. Jerry Kill used to coach in Carbondale, goes from New Mexico State to Vanderbilt to be an offensive consultant because he couldn't stand to see his team getting rated by the bigger programs. And then he goes over to Nashville with Pavia, and you see what happens.
Yeah.
That's it's probably killing those types of places.
Yeah, it's really hurting those.
But it lifts the boats of some of the lower tier teams in those conferences, and I think that's what you have going on right now. 10:47 in St. Louis. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you. One segment left. This is Balloon Party 101 ESPN. All right, because I am an incredible broadcaster, I hope that comes off.
Just honesty in media.
Yeah, the way I want it to. I managed the clock today. And it's 10:52, and that means we have 8 minutes here for this final segment on 101 ESPN. The program's called Balloon Party. I'm like, how's Jackson going to want to optimize it? Well, we'll find out right here.
So I'm going to talk a little bit. The basis of this question came from the NFL.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is the biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? Perpetrator?
I don't know, but I might just see if Rocchio's in the hallway.
He might be better. I don't know why. My mouth isn't working today.
Well, I think the text inbox got to you.
Well, I knew it was coming. I think the NFL is one of the biggest perpetrators of this, NBA, short to follow. Do you think we are a sports society that is too obsessed with narratives and storylines? Do you think that is a chicken and egg thing with national media and social media? Even so, do sports succeed based in part by narratives drumming up interest?
100% on the last question. I think you can do this in business from an investment standpoint, and I doubt many people would call sports gambling investing. But if you wanted to use risk quantification and where you're looking to allocate dollars to try to make some money, that capitalizing on a narrative that you find the public going along with, but you seeing an edge the other way, that's where you can really make some money. And that's what I thought was the case with Missouri for this game against A&M. When I watched A&M play against Arkansas, I was watching the Marcel Reed version. That was a different team. Mm-hmm. Hey, I didn't realize Connor Wegman, the guy who I watched play against Notre Dame, was that much better. But we did talk about that with Gabe DeArmond on Friday after his interview with the Texas A&M reporter, who said the reason why they would go with Wegman is Wegman lifts their ceiling a lot higher than Reed does. Reed's 3-0, but he's 3-0 against Florida, some McNeese State, and Arkansas. With Wegman, they can beat Missouri, they can beat LSU, and the one that they want more than anything else, Texas,
right,
at the end of the season as they restore that rivalry. So that would be the reason for it. With Missouri, I was like, everybody's off Missouri because of how bad that Vanderbilt game looked. And Missouri's line play was actually really good against Vanderbilt. And it was. I know it's like, oh, you must have been looking for... I'm telling you, it was. But it was awful against Texas A&M. It was awful against Texas A&M. I'll tell you something. I don't know if it's a narrative so much as it's just a truth. You can't go, this team beat this team, and then therefore this team will carry that over, and then they'll beat this team. Because if we were to do the transitive property, Vanderbilt beat Alabama, Vanderbilt was beat by Georgia State. We don't even have to get that crazy. We just have to go with 2. Yeah. And now you got a transitive property in which Georgia State is beating Alabama, and therefore Georgia State's beating Georgia. You've just got all-out insanity when you start doing the transitive property. And I think that's more so the case now. But you're also talking about, especially in the case of Ryan Williams at Alabama, but from 17 to 23, 24-year-olds, in the impact of playing on the road, what we see oftentimes with night games, but the variance in psychology of getting too high with highs, too low with lows, and therefore you're not going to get the same team over the course of 12 weeks. The championship teams, especially the ones we've seen over the last, I feel like we've seen this with Clemson as an example. Might have lost to Syracuse one year and then still won the national championship, something along those lines. Alabama had the South Florida deal where Jalen Milroe was benched last year, and they win the SEC championship. Washington had a big scare in September, October last year, and they get to the national championship game. Michigan had its problems with Maryland, but a team improves as it goes through the season. And that's where you find out about both the players and the coaches. You're going to find a lot out here over the next couple weeks about both teams in our area. How Missouri handles not just this thing this weekend with the goofball trip to the fall foliage of Massachusetts, but, of course, homecoming against Auburn. And then you have Illinois playing a terrible team in Purdue, and they get them. And then they get Michigan. And Michigan, defending national champions, but clearly not the same team. So Illinois is primed here for an opportunity. But how will Alabama handle the bounce back this weekend against South Carolina? How dominant is Ohio State? We'll see them play against Oregon. There are a lot of question marks in college football this year, and I think the narratives are what add to the interest level. But what also becomes a lot of deification of coaches that becomes cult of personality. And then you also have guys who might be incredible coaches, but they get torn down because they either inherit a program that's a mess or they've got things going on behind the scenes and they have to take the fall for it.
This weekend, more so than any other weekend, even with Missouri's debacle down at College Station, I watched a lot of college football on Saturday and a lot of NFL yesterday. Boy, does college football rock way harder than the NFL.
Yeah, I watched some NFL in the 3 o'clock window yesterday, and they were thrilling.
They were great games.
Finishes. As a matter of fact, I guess I watched the ends of the 12 o'clock window now that I think about it.
With the Bengals and Ravens and whatever Sean McDermott was doing as clock management with the Bills.
That was odd in the end zone in Houston with Josh Allen just throwing.
Super weird. But I was like, this was a bad college football slate this weekend, and still, like, to me, was so much more entertaining watching. And I don't like the narrative, like, when everyone's on a narrative, like you say, like, oftentimes feel like the other side might be right. Boy, they throw a lot of flags in the NFL. It is a laundry festival. Yeah, and it hurts the game.
You had a weird spot where the Colts were 3.5-point underdogs against the winless Jaguars.
Yeah, so weird.
But the Jaguars didn't cover.
Yeah, so weird.
Great day for squares on that one if you went that direction.
Yeah.
Cardinals beat the 49ers.
Seahawks lose to the Giants. Dan the Doo-Doo Man still starting. I really thought Drew Lock was starting that game.
And then the Rammies lost to the Packers. And then last night, CeeDee Lamb's not happy with Dak Prescott, but they're able to win the game in the final few moments. Yeah, but I mean, what are people talking about nationally? I think more people are talking college football.
Yeah, absolutely, especially after this weekend. But it's just the parody, the craziness, the chaos of it is more fun to me than, like, yes, the product is better in the NFL, but it's a flag festival, and even the biggest upsets, it's like, well, all right, we'll move on. There's no possibility for a Vandy beating Alabama in the NFL. That doesn't happen.
10:58 in St. Louis. Jackson Burkett, Tim McKernan with you. It is Balloon Party. BK and Ferrario are coming up next, and Jackson will have the Blues and the Kraken tomorrow right here on 101 ESPN. 2:30 for the pregame show. Puck drops at 3:30, and you're going to be Creekside with a transistor radio.
That's right. That's how I like to start every Blues season.
Is that right?
Yeah, just me, myself, and my thoughts.
The game will be right here.
Yeah, so 101 ESPN.
Maybe some listeners can gather with you Creekside. Would you like to tell the listeners what creek you're going to go listen to the game with your transistor radio? I assume it's like in Ladue.
It's just on private property, so I don't know if I'm at liberty to say.
Oh, over number 7 at St. Louis.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we were talking about.
Yeah. So just if you don't know where it is, you won't be there. If you know where it is,
join Jackson.
Say what's up. Yeah.
I know a lot of St. Louis Country Club members are listeners to the program, and we always thank them for their support, and everybody at Log Cabin as well. Time for us to go. Jackson Burkett will be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and I know you're going to get people ready for the Blue season with your look ahead.
Yeah, this show tomorrow is going to be dedicated to Dalibor Dvorsky.
Oh, my gosh.
Once I figure out how to pronounce his name.
That'll be an incredible segment. BK and Ferrario are up next for Jackson Burkett. I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, 101 ESPN. James Carlton, Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency. He's my guy. He's been my insurance agent for more than 5 years now, and people rave about the kind of service that James and his team provide. Make the switch. They'll do all the paperwork for you. All you got to do is go to carltoninsurance.net, or if you want to, you can call 314-961-4800 and make the switch to James Carlton. 388 5-star reviews. Customer service, unlike anything else. You call there right now, you're not going to be sent to some call center. No, you're going to talk to somebody right in Webster Groves who's going to be able to help you out. And the thing that I've noticed as a James Carlton client is I'll get texts about ways to save money. They are looking for ways to save you money. A number of people in this audience have made the switch, and they go, I had no idea that he was going to be able to save me this much money. It's worth the call. Find out if he can do for you what he's done for me and so many others in the St. Louis metropolitan area. Save you money and provide great customer service. It's James Carlton, online at carltoninsurance.net.